Hi, and welcome to the Marketing for Writing Coaches show. In this show, I sit down with the best marketing experts so that you, the book coach, can focus on what is really important, setting up a marketing strategy without the overwhelm. Today, I am very happy to welcome the expert in training editors to uplevel their skills using artificial intelligence. She does that to her course, ChatGPT for Editors, and by keeping a blog on how AI is reshaping the publishing industry. Get your earbuds ready to get blown away by Erin Servais. Hi, Erin.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much for coming here because we can really say that you are now like the one expert for ChatGPT for editors. So, how did you suddenly decide, okay, let's completely change my business model and focus really on ChatGPT?
It was an absolute light bulb, earth shaking, uh, sky parting, and the sun shining down kind of moment. And it happened in late May, I would say, of this year, 2023. And
Very recent,
I
actually.
had been, yes, yeah, because I first started experimenting. I've been tracking AI for a while. I'm a sci-fi fan, so I've
Ah,
been interested in this, and I've been tracking it and the generative AI coming about. And when I first started toying around with ChatGPT this spring, I was kind of scared. I was a little bit anti ChatGPT because I read a lot of news stories that were very exploitative. And then I played around with it some more and learned how it worked and tried it with editing, just plain copy editing, grammar, spelling, punctuation, and saw how well it did, how accurate it was and precise it was. And in that moment, I realized, oh, things are really going to be changing in our industry. And in that moment, I realized that what I wanted to do was to help people prepare for that. So I decided to, in that moment, the big aha moment, to stop everything. I wound down my author coaching business, and I stopped doing almost all of my editing that I do so I could focus entirely on learning ChatGPT and learning how to teach it to people. So all summer I was just nosing the books, reading all about it, and experimenting with how it works and how it works best. And then I used all of that knowledge to launch a course, ChatGPT for Editors. I
who
knew
has
that
been blowing up?
yes. I saw how everything was going to change and thought, oh, I should get out there fast because everybody's going to need to know about it.
Yeah, I
And
was going to.
now people have been talking to me about it and taking the course, and it's been really exciting.
You're actually a really good example as well of niche marketing because you have like that one niche, not only ChatGPT, plus also editorial. So it really shows as well when you choose your niche and you go full 100% in it, it really pays off.
And it helps to be one of the only ones in the niche, too.
Yeah, well,
So getting
exactly.
it.
But that, you go into it, you say, okay, this is going to be my niche.
Mm-hmm.
I see that they're going to be something because ChatGPT, like here in Singapore, we we start talking about it, but then you go in Europe, they don't even talk about it. ChatGPT is still like a concept that, somewhere in the US. One in the US, it just exploded. I remember my friends talking about it in April, May, but now we're in October. It seems like everyone, but at the time when you decided to go on your niche, there was no one thinking about that niche. So
As far as I know, uh, at least in North America, I'm the only one who has a full course about ChatGPT for editors. And the first time I ran it, I even had someone from Manila taking it, and for them, it was in the middle of the night because I teach it
yeah,
live, And that's because there's just not very many resources out there specifically for editors
Yeah,
when things are
exactly. And
already changing fast.
exactly, that's like the whole, the whole benefit of saying I'm going to niche. I'm just saying that because I'm very into niche marketing, and suddenly like we have to talk about that niche aspect. That you're one of
Mm-hmm.
those people who took the leap, you went into it, and at a moment where there was no one, because a lot of the book coaches who watching niching is also one of their issues. So I was like, let's just notice that moment that you were one of those people who actually did it, went into it, and it was successful. So congratulations on that one.
And it was scary, but sometimes it's worth the risk, jumping
Absolutely.
all in.
Absolutely. Now, that said, I didn't invite you to talk about your niche, but we did invite you to help us. How, as a book coach, can we use ChatGPT in our business, right? And so the very first question is, maybe let's start with the basics. What exactly is ChatGPT?
The basics. So let me explain to you what ChatGPT is. It is a type of AI technology that is called a chatbot. And that means that it can chat with you now through text or voice. It just got a voice chat capability. And it uses an interface that's going to look very familiar to anybody who's ever used the internet. And you will type in a prompt to it, or with the voice chat, you can then just talk to it like you would as if it were a really smart Siri. It's quite amazing in comparison. But with the website or text-based app, you type in a prompt, which is a request for ChatGPT, and send it off, hit a button, send it off. And then ChatGPT will respond with the information that you requested or doing the task that you requested. Basically, whatever you tell it to do. And
Okay.
it's just back and forth like that. In human-like language, it really, really does sound like it's a person you're talking to.
Yeah, some say it's like Google on steroids, right?
That is a really good way to describe it. Mm-hmm.
Um, so one of the reasons many people are a bit scared of ChatGPT is the whole problem about data. Like, if we put in like you say, a request or a prompt, or we put in some of our text, is ChatGPT going to take it out and use it and spit it out to someone else?
In these early days with this technology, as we work with authors and clients, it's going to involve a lot of education about ChatGPT and other similar technology. And part of that is explaining what it's going to do with your text or their text, whatever that may be. So it's important to tell them that it's not going to just spit out word for word whatever their story or article is. That's not how it works. How it works is that it will, let's say your client wrote a story about a kitten princess who lives in a crystal palace. And then a year later, someone on the other side of the globe says to ChatGPT, please tell me a story about a kitten princess who lives in a crystal palace. It's not going to spit out your client's story word for word. It will instead will look back at everything that it's read in all of its training, and it's going to look at what it's learned about kittens and princesses and palaces and crystals and a fiction story, and it will pull elements from all of that and create an amalgamation of those. And part of that may be some of what your client wrote, in that maybe your client wrote about a kitten who had a purple princess crown. And so it decided, okay, well, it's going to have a purple princess crown in this story, but it's not going to be that exact plot or that exact character or that exact setting. It's just not how it works. And I think when authors understand that, it's going to make them feel more comfortable with it. I know that there's also, with data privacy, there's a concern about breaches and how will they use my data otherwise. And with that, I just like to remind people that there's not really a lot of privacy on the internet. I know that earlier this year, Microsoft OneDrive had a data incident. And I know that, I mean, that's where I store my clients' manuscripts. That's where I store my own information. And I kind of look at it like that. Well, that is supposed to be secure, and it's not. It's just part of working on the internet and living in this year.
Yeah. And I was also maybe going to add, when you talk about it, it's like, there's always been this inspiration about ideas. Like ideas, you can't copyright them. Like you said, the princess with the purple crown. I can have that idea, you can have that idea, someone else can have that idea. Is the difference not here that ChatGPT can give you that idea, but then you as an author have to appropriate it yourself?
Right. So someone could take, and people have taken things that ChatGPT and similar tools have written and published them. I'm based in the United States, and where we are with copyright and the legal use of that text is that you cannot copyright text that has been generated by an AI program like ChatGPT. So all of those books that people have put up, okay, that's happening, but they can't copyright it. So that's something to note too.
Oh, but do they have to like then say I've written this book with ChatGPT? What if they don't? Like,
It's a lot of figuring things out right now. I write my blog using ChatGPT. Some of it's ChatGPT and some of it is me. And I have thought about putting ChatGPT helped me write this, and maybe I will go on there and do that. I guess I just kind of assume people think that I do use it, since that's what the whole thing is about.
yeah.
It seems like a good practice to add that. But I'm not going to delve into whether the ethics of whether somebody should or shouldn't. That's kind of
Yeah. Okay, but anyway, the whole thing is that today, between the choice of not using ChatGPT because you're scared of the data and using ChatGPT, I guess it's better to be on the train who uses the ChatGPT as everybody else is going to use it than not.
I definitely think it's good to be an early adopter here, because the way I see it going in the editing industries is that, well, I already see students coming in and saying, my job has started using ChatGPT. They've trained it on our style guide. We're having to use it in our everyday work. And that's mostly with copy editors. It takes not to be negative at all toward copy editors. That is not my intention, but it takes a different skill to be able to work at the content level, like a developmental editor or perhaps a book coach would. And this technology is not yet there. So I think book coaches have more time. But
book coaches, we have more time. Let's please, we have more time.
I don't know.
But a little bit,
start learning it now.
Yeah.
There are already programs out there that advertise themselves as doing a developmental edit or a manuscript evaluation. I've tested them and found that they don't do as good of a job as we can yet, but I think very soon it'll be able to do a beta read or maybe a manuscript evaluation next year sometime. So it's smart to learn it now
and to
and
get
learn
on.
how to use it to make yourself even better at what
That's
you can
interesting
do.
as well, yeah. To make yourself better, because I think ChatGPT, it can be a very powerful tool in the practice of a book coach. So you talked about that maybe ChatGPT in the near future will be able to do a manuscript evaluation. Can you talk us a little bit more about that? Where is it now? Where could it lead? How do you, like, what are we talking about? Like, I have this manuscript of my client. What do I do with it? How can
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT help me?
Let's get into current capabilities and ways that you can use it right now. And I do want to put the note in there that what I'm going to talk about is using it with the paid version. It's $20 a month. I don't know how much it costs in other countries. That's what it is in the US. And it's well worth it. You can try these things with the free version. If you get frustrated, don't judge it based on that. Just try out the paid version and know that you're going to get vastly better outcomes with it. So what it can do right now, I like to think of it as doing the first pass for you. For book coaches, doing the first read through for you. Think about how much time that could save. That's the big thing, is that it can be a major time saver. So, for instance, it can summarize the text. Let's say that you work with nonfiction authors. You have somebody who wrote a rhetorical essay. You can ask ChatGPT you can upload it to ChatGPT, upload the essay to ChatGPT, ask it to summarize the main points of the argument for you. And then you know what that is before you get to page 1. What I've done is, when working with a book coach, or as a book coach working with an author, I've had it review a chapter that I was going to go over with the author and summarize the strengths and weaknesses of the writing. And I knew those strengths and weaknesses before I got to page 1. For instance, let's say, it doesn't have any setting description, or the pacing's too fast, or there is too much telling and not enough showing. Think about how much better you could do, how much faster you could do your job if you already knew that before you even started reading it. You could, it would help you prepare your editorial reports or the feedback that you give the author faster, because you already knew before you started reading what to exactly focus on and what's most important for the author to know. So it can save you a lot of time. And if you're thinking about, if you're working with a full novel, if you're doing more of a developmental edit, that means that it could save you days of work.
Because what could we do with a full novel, for example? We can ask for summarize the text, find us the strengths and weaknesses. Is there anything else that we could ask?
Well, one thing
ChatGPT
to
do?
keep in mind when working, if you are working with a full-length novel, is that right now there is a limit on how much text
Even
the
in the paid
program
version.
can work with, even in the paid version, and how much it can work with well. You can technically upload a novel and it'll say that it can review it, but it's not going to be reviewing a novel, like 200 pages, as thoroughly as it could if you worked on a chapter level. So that's how I do it, is I work chapter by chapter, and I'm thinking like 12 pages, 10 pages is the level that I work with. So I want to keep that in mind. But really, it can do just about anything that you want it to do. I mean, if you wanted to focus on characters, if you're working in fiction, and have it give you a summary of, it goes back a lot to how I like to use it with the strengths and weaknesses. What can I focus on with this character? How can I help the author improve this? And then write a 5-paragraph summary
Ooh,
about
that's
how the author can improve this character or this setting description, or how they can specifically use show don't tell in that exact chapter.
now before we get all very super excited. One of the things that comes up in my mind is like, what about accuracy? Like, um,
Mm-hmm.
I put in the chapter, I have my 12 pages that review, that get my summary. Is that it? Or should I still need, as a book coach, go back and do the work myself? Because in that case, I mean, I could say, you know what, why would I even pay for a book coach? I can do it myself. Like, I go on ChatGPT, I put in my chapter, and that's it. ChatGPT can
Mm-hmm.
tell me.
The way that I like to frame it is that it's like people are getting two editors in one, because they're getting all of the good advice that ChatGPT can give, but ChatGPT is not a human. I'm still revising. If it says, it's explained it to the author in this way, I'm still revising it so that it's the way that I want to explain it. Even when I train ChatGPT how I like to talk to authors, I still go through and put my spin on it, because I know that individual person better than ChatGPT does. I can tweak it to fit their needs better than it can. I do think that, yeah, there's going to be a time when, say, someone wants to, you can charge half as much and say, all right, I'm just going to run it through ChatGPT and tell it to do this. I'm not going to read it. You have to tell the client that part. But there is going to be that service. I don't know. Who knows how to predict this? Next year
Mm-mm-mm.
sometime, maybe. But the original question was accuracy. That's right. And I know that this spring, it feels like so long ago.
I saw the
This
year went
this
quickly.
spring, 6 months ago, there were a lot of news stories coming out about ChatGPT giving information that wasn't factual. And a lot of the problem there, that did happen. That is true, that did happen. But a lot of the problem there was that there wasn't enough education about how ChatGPT actually works. It wasn't built to be a fact checker. The way that it works is that it's a text prediction tool.
Mm.
So it goes through, and each word is thinking, okay, what do I think is going to be the next right word? And it reflects back on all of these millions and millions and millions of words that it's read about all of these different topics to pick what's going to come next. Kind of like a super, super, super smart version of Gmail's text prediction tool. Whenever you're typing an email and it figures out what it thinks you want to say.
Yeah.
Love that. Super, super, super smart version of that. And when it really hit public awareness this spring, there wasn't the education that that's how it worked. It wasn't just actually spitting out facts. It was guessing what was going to come next. A lot of the times the predictions were right. Sometimes it was just fitting a format, and it wasn't exactly real things. I'm thinking of the famous story here, the famous news story of this attorney who used it as a research tool. And it came up with all of these court cases that sounded right, but did not actually exist. He sent
My
them.
goodness.
Oh, yeah, it was a big problem for him. Yeah, it was bad because
That's
people
really
didn't
bad,
know
like,
how it worked,
especially for an attorney.
right? Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't a good look for him. And now we know that
that you have
it
to
doesn't
check and
always, right, it doesn't always answer correctly. But I will say that if you have the paid version, it can access the web now, so it has current up-to-date
ooh,
information.
okay. Yeah.
And I just learned this today by accident. I love it. I learned so much about ChatGPT by accident as I'm experimenting. Um, it will. I recently learned that it has started citing its sources if you're asking for
Oh,
factual
okay.
information, that you can check real sources. And today, in practicing with this, it checked and cited the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Wow.
I've been waiting for this moment for, well, a couple of months.
I
A
see.
couple of months.
I see
But
Erin getting really excited, like, oh, I've been
oh,
waiting
oh
for
my
it.
gosh. So there was that big moment I mentioned that I had the early
This was like the
in
second one.
spring. This was the second one. It was seriously, I got so excited because I've been specifically waiting for it to check Encyclopedia Britannica, and it did. And I didn't even ask it to. It just knew that that was the best source to
Wow.
use.
Now I'm getting excited for the paid version as well.
Mm-hmm. So the trust factor has gone up so much since those stories that we heard about earlier this year. Now my new motto with it is the old adage, trust but verify. So you
And
still
that,
do
yeah,
have to do your job.
I was
You
going to
still
say,
have
and
to read it.
that comes back to what we said earlier, that you, by hiring a book coach, you're hiring two editors in one. And yes, you can as a writer go yourself on ChatGPT and do it, but you will not have that feedback and that accountability coaching. Oh my god, I'm stumbling on my words here. And that personal touch. And I think as book coaches, we
Mm-hmm.
really need to keep that in mind as well, that yes, ChatGPT is a great tool, but the biggest tool is still being you, your personality, your way of coaching, your way of helping the writer to get to the next stage.
And something to keep in mind in terms of how to market yourself in this AI assisted editorial landscape is that when the moment comes very soon that authors can just upload their document into an AI tool and call it a day, and it does a decent job, but they choose to go to you, to a actual human, that means that it's a luxury. And that means that you should price it as a luxury.
Amen to that. Light bulb moment in this interview. Book coaches, mark this, mark this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
Yes.
it's a luxury service. It's not, you know, it's not something that you can do yourself. Like, do you give yourself that gift as an author as well, to let's go to the book coach and they will help me. But you as a book coach has to market that as well. Like you say, again, I really love that word, two editors in one. That is going to be your marketing hook.
Mm-hmm. That's what I think, is two editors in one.
Think this is like one of those sentences, Erin. So just to summarize, so I'm the book coach. I got the text. I put in my chapter because it's limited in text. I can ask it to summarize the text, find strengths and weaknesses, focus, for example, on characters. Great. Now I have the information. Of course, I have done my job and have read the chapter to verify its accuracy and add the personal touch and my personal feedback. What can I do next? You talked about an editorial letter to send to my client.
Mm-hmm. Think about the communications that you write, whether that's editorial report or email notes that you send after your session with the author, however it is that you do it. And think about what you can have ChatGPT write for you instead. One of my favorite uses is I write editorial reports, and I can use ChatGPT to make that process go so much faster. So much faster. Just the other day, I needed two sentences, 4 sentences to explain to an author about using gender neutral terms, like with career titles, for instance. And I'm like, okay, I could take 5 minutes and figure out exactly how I want to word this. Or I could just pop it in ChatGPT and it can write those 4 sentences in seconds, and I can copy and paste it. And I did a couple tweaks here. I think I took out a sentence that it wrote to make it even more abbreviated, but it did it for me. And that saved me, okay, maybe it saved me 3 minutes to write those 4 sentences. But think about if that added up all together. And that's enough time to go on vacation at the end
Yeah,
of
I
the
was going
year.
to say, walk your dog, take care of your kid, the kind of things. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Spend more time actually enjoying your life instead of working, or spend that time taking on more work because now you can be more efficient.
Yeah, I love that idea of ChatGPT. That indeed, it actually the biggest thing is that it helps you to be more efficient as a book coach. But that it doesn't mean that it's going to replace you as the book coach. The book coach is still needed. It's just going to be another way of marketing yourself, and just be proud of what you do.
Exactly. And it will really save a lot of time because you could write, a page about the pros and cons of first person point of view, and you could do a really good job writing it, and it could take you 45 minutes. Or you can have ChatGPT write essentially exactly the same thing, because you can train it to sound like you and write like you and have it in 5 minutes. The important thing is that you knew that that was something that the author needed to know. And you can go back and follow up with them in your session and talk to them about it. So they're still getting that personal touch, even if you had a program help you.
Exactly. This is again a great a great example, because you have that article, you have things that maybe you didn't think about, you bring in your own personal touch, and then you go over with your author. So the author has actually have more time to spend with your author rather than having that basic information.
Mm-hmm. We're going to say it again. 2 editors in one.
Oh, I love that sign. Oh, we need to take a picture of that one. Okay, wait, do it again. I'll take the screenshot. Oh, I love that one. Erin, I would love to continue talking with you, because I feel like you have so much knowledge to share with us about ChatGPT. Do you have one last tip for our book coaches?
I do. And that is, as you get started using ChatGPT and you are writing your prompts to have you help it edit text or write pieces of your communications with authors, remember that ChatGPT is going to do what you tell it to do, not necessarily what you want it to do. So that means that you have to be very specific in what you tell it to do. Say, I would like 5 paragraphs with bullet points and examples from the author's text about why they should or should not use first person point of view. Or I want examples from the text where they did telling and not showing, and rewrite how that example with how they could be showing instead of telling. And make sure that you just be very clear and detailed in what you want it to do, so that it does what you tell it to do.
Thank you so much, Erin. I think that is the perfect last tip of this interview. Now, I'm sure that a lot of book coaches watching here and saying, oh my God, I want to learn more. You have the #1 course for editors. So can you tell us a little bit more about that, Erin?
Yes, I absolutely can. I teach a course called ChatGPT for Editors, and it goes over an introduction to this technology, where it came from and where it's going within the industry. We go over the format for prompts and to teach you exactly how to write prompts to help you with book coaching. We do discuss book coaching and content editing. And then we go over how you can use it specifically for copy editing and also content editing. I go over both within this course. And I think that you'll, even if you are strictly a content editor, going through some of these practices and exercises with copy editing and seeing how that works is going to help you come up with ideas for how you can use it in your business and your work. And don't forget, you still are a writer. Like, I imagine that you're writing blog posts or emails and lots of other things. So figuring out how you can make editing your own work faster, or learning how to use ChatGPT as a checker for your own work is going to be useful too. So it goes over prompt writing, it goes over copy editing, it goes over content editing. If I have any word macros fans out there, and I imagine that there are going to be some people who like to use word macros, even if you're mainly a book coach, I teach you how to use ChatGPT to write macros. And it is seriously just
Mind-blowing.
absolutely unbelievable when you see it in action. And you can learn how to do all of that at my ChatGPT for Editors course. I teach it live, 90-minute classes with lots of interaction. And we have a Slack group where we trade articles and our own information about our own experiments with it. And to becoming probably in early 2024, I'm going to have an asynchronous version too for people who are in time zones on the opposite side of the world to make it a little bit easier for you.
Yeah. Well, most of my book coaches are in the US anyway, so I don't think for them it's going to be an issue. For me, it's more of an issue, but for them it should be okay. Thank you so much, Erin. And where can we find that exactly? Okay.
Go to www.aiforeditors.com.
Thank you so much, Erin. And that was it. So if you like this episode and you want the next one straight in your email box, don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter for writing coaches. You will find the link below in the comments. Have a great day. Thank you so much again, Erin, to have come on the show. I really appreciate it, and wishing you a very nice day.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.